13th. Discussion items of the attendees were Justin, Ray Zimmerman, Martin, Teresa Linsky, and myself. I don't remember if Dr. McKay, you were there? You were? I'm sorry, I missed.
That's fine.
Karen, you were not there. Okay. We discussed the clean energy, New Jersey clean energy, and the school energy audit. We went over the monthly financial reports that we get in all of our papers and the what the significance of it, and it was a very informative section of the finance meeting. We had a budget overview. We talked about Senate Bill 2691, which increased the undesignated fund balances from 2% to 4%, the allowable. We also talked about capital projects and switching to Delta Dental. And that's that. I gave written copies to Jennifer, and she will distribute it in the minutes.
Thanks, Jim.
That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Sweeney.
Do I go? We had a liaison committee meeting on April 27th. Tony Chili from the town council and Ed DeYoung from the mayor's office attended, along with Charles Maglia, Adina Luthner, and Martin O'Donnell and myself. We discussed coordinating with the school to connect student volunteers with potential opportunities at the town level, possibly with the Greenway, possibly bringing some of our students in the CTE program and kind of drawing on their expertise to help out the town and giving the teens, the kids, the opportunity to volunteer. And then we also discussed the Teen Activity Center idea that we had been kicking around for the unused space in Walnut Ridge. And it was brought to our attention that the PAL building actually has some space there that is geared toward that. And so they're going to circle back to us when they're hiring somebody right now, I believe. And then they're going to circle back and we're going to talk about possibly figuring the way to open that up more and draw more kids to it. So, did I get everything? That was it.
Thank you, Ms.
Members help.
Pellet.
I guess I'll go. The Curriculum and Technology Committee met on Monday, April 19th. It was rescheduled from April 14th. We met from 6 o'clock to 7:59. Just want to let everybody know, I kept it right to the minute. The Board of Education members who attended were Justin Annunziata, Adina Luthner, Martin O'Donnell, the Assistant Superintendent, Dr. Chuck McKay, our Chief Technology Officer, Matt Shea. The directors were Vinnie Gagliostro, Arts and Humanities, Russ Rogers, Math and Science and Testing, Russ Fay, Special Services, and the supervisors were Cheryl Von Salzen, Special Services, and Suzanne McDougall, Special Services, and myself as the chairperson. And we discussed how our initiatives developed for the Curriculum and Technology Committee. And I went over through the goals, the indicators of success, and the committees that we share ownership for. Those are at the top of each agenda. We discussed how the first week of Spring Forward went. The report was that it went very well. It was positive. We also discussed what was the U.S. Department of Education plan for the alternate, oh, I'm sorry, no, we didn't discuss the alternate assessments for spring because they are actually going into the fall. So we discussed the plan for the fall and what the different assessments could be in the fall. We discussed the learning loss initiatives that are being utilized for the summer. We went over the ESSER amounts that Vernon Township School District, the ESSER 2 allocation, $649,747. For learning acceleration was $41,698. Mental health supports and services were $45,000. And on a side note, for the mental health supports and services, just so everyone's aware, these funds must be allocated by budgeting a minimum of 10% of the total allocation towards professional development. Just so everyone knows, there is a big PD component in there, which is always very important. We also discussed how does Vernon Township School District utilize Securely, which is the computer software system. Mr. Shea did a very good presentation that he finished up, and we discussed possibly come the beginning of the school year or the end of the summer. Mr. Shea presenting that when everyone's heading back. I don't mean that there won't be a virtual component, but I mean the beginning of the school year. Let me preface that. So therefore, everyone can learn about the system that's used, the privacy factors, and everything else that go into it. We also discussed, will Chromebooks be distributed to seniors? Overall, the majority of members, or should I say unanimous members who were present were in favor of distributing them to seniors and offering them like we do each year. And we discussed curriculum staffing process for 6th period is based upon teacher certification. And one of the other things that came up, there was a discrepancy between the Vernon Township High School handbook and the information that I had presented to the public last month regarding credit retrieval. The March 16th curriculum and technology minutes was Apex for students who require credit retrieval and cannot fit into their schedule in time will be paid for by the Board of Ed. When I went back and checked the handbook said the parents are responsible. So instead, what we discussed was due to the grant, it will be covered by the Board of Ed just for this particular year due to the unusual nature of everything that has happened this year, and it will be re-examined in the future. And that was pretty much everything we discussed, right down to 7 o'clock and 59 minutes. 1 minute left.
Can I get on that committee?
What?
Can I get on that committee?
Yes, you can, but for you, we'll bring it to 8:29. Okay.
Thank you.
Special services will be held on May 6th, so that's coming up. And I was not able to attend the Sussex County Ed Service Commission meeting in April, so I will report out on that next month when I do attend for May.
Thank you, Ms. Conlon.
Thank you.
Well, student life met every single Wednesday of the month. So you're probably all very excited to not have another committee meeting. So carnival time it is. We start tomorrow at 6 o'clock for our 5th, 6th, and 7th graders. And then Saturday from 10 to 2 for pre-K through 4. Everybody received their shirts. They were really excited about it and very well received. We want to thank Rooster Tees because that was a very quick turnaround. They are amazing. So if anybody ever needs any t-shirts, please call them. They're amazing. And Denise had sent in the email. She's giving her time for DJ for two, the 2 events. So I hope that Denise gets a lot of sleep tonight because she's going to need an enormous amount of energy for the next 2 days. So super excited. Thank you, Student Life Committee. You guys are amazing and you've worked like unbelievably. So yay.
Thank you, Ms. Mitchell. Okay, item L is the superintendent's report.
Thank you. Excuse me. I want to start with the superintendent's report. That's what happens when you don't talk for a while and you have a mask on and everything. So my apologies. I'll start with the superintendent's report that was emailed to the board and was posted on the website for the public. Just a couple of quick updates. If you're curious about numbers for in-person instruction and hybrid and remote learning, I've shared some data with the Board of Education. This is based on information that I received from the county office. As you can see, districts are slowly starting to move back to an in-person model, and there are some increases there across the state. I will tell you that this also includes some additional reports that we need to do for the county office, which I have to submit on a weekly basis. I also wanted to note for everyone that we are expecting on May 10th an updated executive order from the governor. He held a press conference this week, and that's in regards to end of the year ceremonies. Stadiums that seat 1,000 or more, he said, can seat 500 in the stands and 500 in the field. They're looking at about a 50% occupancy. He does expect the outdoor 500 people limit to be the new floor, and it may increase before Memorial Day. Of course, this is all speculative at this point. Inside capacities will be about 50% of room occupancy up to 250 individuals. Obviously, we are keeping our fingers crossed that COVID numbers go in the same direction that they went today. This is the first time we've seen a map that looks like this since October. Actually, in October, we had yellow and orange across the state. Sussex County was yellow. This is the first time that the entire state has been yellow for quite some time. So the numbers at the state level are finally starting to go in the right direction. We'll have an update on graduation in May. I know many people are concerned. We're certainly hoping if the weather cooperates, that we will be able to have perhaps one ceremony as opposed to two. Last year, many of you recall, we had two ceremonies because the cap of individuals, I think, was 250, and we had to split the classes. So we'll talk more about that as we get into May. This is something that I think stemmed throughout, it started at Newton High School. Their peer leadership group created a gratitude video for National SEL Day, which was the end of March. Then the Sussex County Ed Services Commission created a gratitude video, and they've decided to challenge the Vernon Township School District. So we are in the process of working on a gratitude video as well. So for any of our faculty and our children out there, if anybody wants to just hold up a sign and take a picture of themselves saying what they're grateful for, we're working on putting that together and sharing it back out to the districts in the county. As challenging as a year we've had, it's really important to acknowledge what we're grateful for. Excuse me. And speaking of what we're grateful for, we are planning an outdoor celebratory event on June 15th with a rain date of June 16th. This is a capstone celebration. I spoke about it briefly at the last meeting. I'm so excited because we're looking at honoring Teachers of the Year, retirees, Hall of Fame recipients, students who have done everything from write essays to create beautiful works of art to being successful in academics and athletics. We are looking to have a socially distanced opportunity to acknowledge and support all of the people who have done so much for our school district over the last year and a half. I'm really looking forward to that. I'd also like to congratulate Vernon Township High School. This week, they were named a best high school by US News and World Report. So congratulations to them. Job well done. And I would also like to mention, and Mr. Parenter spoke this evening. He's one of our robotics advisors along with Mr. McCotter. Recently, the high school robotics team was recognized by Mike Sherrill of the 11th Congressional District of New Jersey. They were recognized for their contribution. Many of you may remember this. They assembled and distributed protective shields, the face shields during COVID. It's my understanding that our students and many faculty and advisors and lots of volunteers, not only the two gentlemen I just mentioned, but also Mr. Kites, Mr. Foco, Mr. Bruno, as well as one of our community members, Mark Mariska. Many of these folks donated a lot of their own materials, created lots of face shields for our local hospitals and ambulance squads, as well as nursing homes. Those kinds of volunteer actions of our students are things that I'm quite proud of in this district. Kudos to all of the folks in robotics who have participated in giving back to our community. I'd like to continue with informational matters. Is that okay?
Yes, thank you.
Page 3, number 1, informational matters. Congratulations to Celia Saban, 6th grade, and Melody Bucheri, 8th grade, for having their poster selected by the New Jersey Health Department. 3-free vaccine program contest. Celia and Melody's designs will be placed on all New Jersey Health Department publications next year to promote being properly immunized. It was a cross-curricular project between Ms. Herkler and Ms. Ash. So congratulations, job well done, ladies. Congratulations to Michael Chang, who's one of our 12th grade students at Vernon Township High School. He's working on this Eagle Scout service project. Michael is part of Troop 912 rather, and the Patriots Staff Council. He's constructing 4 wooden benches to be placed at the front entrance and around the walking areas of Vernon Township High School. Thank you so much, Michael, for all of your hard work. They will be painted blue and gold to coincide with our school spirit colors. Item C is the Vernon Township School District celebrates major recognition for its students. There were 14 area high schools and 5 area middle schools who participated in the recent Wallkill Invitational Art Show. We've had tremendous artists this year. Congratulations to all of our fine teachers in the art department who supported our students. Also present were judges from Montserrat College of Art, Savannah College of Art and Design, William Patterson University, and St. Peter's Valley School of Craft. Melody Bucheri from Glen Meadow received 3rd place for 3D sensory garden mushrooms. William Tola Senior at VTHS won 3rd place. And Patience Heavy, a senior, received a merit scholarship for $20,000 a year from Montserrat College of Art, which totals $80,000 for 4 years. Patience is an art 4 AP art major and is also on the girls wrestling team. So congratulations. Those are quite impressive achievements for our folks. Also, item D, Vernon engineering students excelled at this year's virtual NJTSA state conference. So many of the activities that our students previously participated in live shifted to a virtual platform this year. They competed in 3 categories at this competition, held on April 22nd. First place in the state, optical engineering, Mason Freifelder, Morgan Freifelder, Michael Chang, Julian Porras, and Joseph Santiago. Congratulations. Second place in the state, computer-aided design engineering, Jack Foco and Nicholas Decker. Those 2 folks are both freshmen. What an opportunity for those 2 gentlemen, and I can't wait to see what they do in the next 3 years of Vernon High School. Honorable mention, engineering design. Even though this group did not place, they did a great job against some tough competition from throughout the state. Their project involved a group of engineers without borders, which are helping people build better, safer communities. So congratulations, honorable mention to Matthew Catania, Austin Felix, Brad Maverick, Brentley, and Nazir Domena. Special thanks goes out to the CEO and crew at AG Parts from Greensburg, PA for donating over $1,000 worth of automated sanitizer dispensers, sanitizer refills, masks, gloves, wipes, and more. Mr. Conti, coordinating custodian from the high school, will assist in distributing these PPE supplies at high school. Special thank you for your donation. Before I continue with recommendations, Mr. Annunziata, I'd like to remove items 2E and F from the agenda, from the business administrator's portion of the agenda, unless you would ask that she do that. I'm referring to item.
You can pull the recommendation.
I'm sorry?
You can pull the recommendation.
Okay. I'd like to pull item 2E and F based on the discussion of the budget from page 13.
Okay.
May I continue with recommendations?
Yes.
Recommendations 2A. It is recommended that the board approve the following faculty and staff resignations, retirements, terminations, leaves, transfers, assignment changes, appointments, stipends, salary adjustments, student teaching, mentoring as listed. There is a table for the board members at the bottom of page 5, which continues several pages due to the nature of this evening's meeting, to the top of page 8, as well as a small table on your addendum.
We have a motion for recommendation 2A.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Lutner, second. Second by Mr. O'Donnell. Questions or comments? I see that we have a number of retirements on a few retirements on the agenda. I just want to thank those employees for their many years of service in the Vernon Township School District.
And that we're going to honor them
Yes.
on June 15th as we
Yes.
talk about all the great things that they have done for us.
Yes. Thank you. Seeing no other questions or comments, can we please have a roll call vote?
Yes.
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 Yes. Abstain?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item B, it is recommended that the board approve professional development travel that complies with the provisions of New Jersey statutes annotated NJSA 18A:11-12 attachment C.
Can we have a motion for recommendation 2B?
So move.
Motion by Mr. O'Donnell, second.
Second.
Second by Ms. Pellet. Questions or comments? Seeing none, can we please have a roll call vote?
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
Item C, it is recommended that the board approve the harassment, intimidation, and bullying, school safety, and random drug testing reports.
Can we have a motion for recommendation 2C?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Lutner, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. O'Donnell. Questions or comments?
Just the comment that there are none, so we didn't see any reports. Is that correct?
We reviewed these reports.
Oh, that's right.
At the work
Yeah,
session. There
okay.
was one incident, I believe, correct?
There was one unfounded.
One unfounded
Right.
incident,
Okay, thank you.
yes. Seeing no other questions or comments, can we please have a roll call vote?
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Item D, it is recommended that the board approve the 2020-2021 Vernon Township Board of Education Organizational Chart Attachment D.
Can we have a motion for recommendation 2D?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Lutner, second. Second by Mr. Zimmerman. Questions or comments?
I have a question. I have a question on attachment D. I'm looking under special services. We have a director of special services, then it flows down to CFT supervisor pre-K to 12. We currently have 2. And we had 2 for the majority of the year. One had left, we had another one, and then we just hired another. So currently, for next year, that's fine, because we will be down to 1, but we currently have 2. And the majority of the year, we had 2. So can that be fixed?
Certainly.
Thank you.
Okay, so that will be corrected.
As amended. right?
Yes. Any other questions or comments? Okay, can we have a roll call vote for recommendation 2D with the modification of the second supervisor special services listed?
Okay, then we have further clarification. What are the grade breakups?
What are the, I'm
Do you
sorry. I
want to
couldn't hear
table
the
this and vote
question.
on this next one?
Yeah, that
But
might be a better
yeah.
idea,
All right,
only
can we
so
have a-
that way we can
yeah.
clarify the.
Can I have a
the
motion to
grade.
table recommendation 2D?
So
Motion.
moved.
Motion by Mr. Sweeney, second. Second by Ms.
Second.
Mitchell, all in favor?
All right.
Okay, the motion is tabled. Can we have a 2E?
Okay. Item 2E, it is recommended that the board approve the 2021-2022 Vernon Township Board of Education Organizational Chart Attachment E.
We have a motion for recommendation 2E.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Sweeney, second.
Second.
Second by Ms. Coughlin. Questions or comments? Seeing none, can we please have a roll call vote?
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Item F, it is recommended that the board approve half-days for Cedar Mountain, Rolling Hills, Lounsbury Hollow, Glen Meadow, and Vernon Township High School as follows. This is the last week of school, Monday, June 14th through Friday, June 18th, with anticipated evening events on Tuesday, June 15th, Thursday, June 17th, and Friday, June 18th.
Can we have a motion for recommendation 2F?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Sweeney, second.
Second.
Second by Ms. Pellet. Questions or comments? Seeing none, can we please have a roll call vote? Yes.
Oh. Me, yes, I can't hear anything.
Yeah.
Ms. Mitchell?
Oh, yes, sorry.
Yes.
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 Thank you.
Item G, it is recommended that the board approve Thursday, June 17th, 2021 as the Glen Meadow Middle School advancement and Friday, June 18th, 2021 as the VTHS graduation.
Can we have a motion for recommendation to G?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Sweeney, second.
Second.
Second by Ms. Pellet. Questions or comments? Okay, this motion has no monetary impact, so we're gonna do this with an all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Item H,
It is recommended that the board approve the attached personnel agenda for the 2021-2022 school year attachment B.
we have a motion for recommendation 2H.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Sweeney, second.
Second.
Second by Ms. Pellet. Questions or comments? Seeing none, can we please have a roll call vote?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, and abstain as noted.
Yes.
Yes, abstain is noted.
Yes.
Thank you. Does that conclude your report, Mr. Vino?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Thank you. Item M is the Business Administrator's Report. Ms. Linsky?
Please note the use of buildings and grounds. Based on a recommendation from Mr. O'Donnell, we added class 1, 2, and 3, which determines if there's fees collected or not. You will notice that the EMS photo shoot is class 2, but there is no fees collected because they are in the front parking lot. There's no overhead for us on that. And for the Vernon Township Women's Softball League, they also are class 2, but the township takes care of the fields for us, and there is no custodial for that, so there's no fee attached. There is one.
Could you speak into the mic, please? I can't hear you.
There is one that was a class 3, so they are charged the use of facilities and custodial, and that's a Ziegler Dance Center, and that's for their annual dance recital. So the fees were collected for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate the classes being put in there. I understand that it was your idea to do that. Martin, thank you. I appreciate that.
I mean, I really would also like to see a checkbox for confirmation of insurance. Only because that would open us up to liability if we didn't do that. Somebody should be accountable for making sure that's checked. And I understand it always is, but just as a, because if we're voting to approve things, I want it to be all right.
Good idea, Martin. Thank you.
Item B,
It is, item B states that no budgetary line item has been overexpended. And C, the bus drill. This is a report of the bus evacuation drill. You'll notice that what we need them 2 times a year. This was 1. Glen Meadow only has 1 because it is done with Lounsbury. They're tiered routes, so it's done there. This is only 1 route that only comes here. Any questions?
no, thank you.
D, the review of professional services, reappointments for the 21-22 school year. Is
There'll be a
on
vote.
here for next month's approval.
Okay, there will be a vote on that in May, so if board members take the time to review that and have any questions, please try to get those to the business administrator before the May meeting.
We need to have a discussion on where to hold the work session and public meetings from July through December of next year. I believe we could do July and August here. If it opens up For the preschool, Walnut Ridge, we might have to determine where each meeting will be held.
Okay,
And also whether it's going to be remote with participation or in person.
sure. So historically, the board has, for the last few years, been meeting in the Lounsbury Hollow Library. That was a room that was conducive to holding public meetings. We had lots of chairs and space for members of the public to attend. It's air conditioned and heated. And it was easier perhaps than this room to convert back and forth between a setup that would allow for a board meeting to be held. This room, if we have the preschool here, will be utilized, I'm sure, by the preschool during the day. So
It will be.
it will be.
It'll be harder to set up
Yeah.
here than it would be to set up at
So does the board want to return to Lounsbury Hollow Middle School for the fall meetings beginning in August or beginning in July? Or entertain another location?
I want to go back to Lounsbury.
Here, 5 minutes from my house.
So Lounsbury is 6.
Yeah, good point.
I'm fine with moving back to Lounsbury.
Okay, anybody have any opposition to that? Okay, so we will meet in Lounsbury beginning with the July meetings.
July for Lounsbury.
Yes. As far as participation, do we know if the state requirements for virtual participation are still in effect in July?
You don't have to have virtual meetings, but if you do have them, then you have to take comments. But if you go to all-person meetings, you would still be streaming them so they could watch from home. But that, however you want to handle it.
I think that what we are doing now is working, allowing board members or members of the public who may need to attend virtually. I'm in favor of continuing that. Does anybody else want to weigh in?
I
Yeah.
agree.
I agree.
All right, so we will not make any changes to the meeting format. We'll change the location to Lounsbury beginning in July. Okay, item F.
This is the water, lead testing of the water. Mrs. Coughlin had brought up that we had a policy in place. And we did have a policy in place, and we did not have a regulation. Strauss Esme is recommending the regulation. The policy didn't state how many times we tested in the past. The changes to the policy are that now we have to test every 3 years versus 6 years, and it changes the reporting requirement of when we have to post it on our website. The regulation does not state how many, and that's why I'm bringing it up for discussion. If you want it to state how many, we can. I just want you to be careful because with COVID, we did not test because we had water fountains. They're still covered right now. They're not being used. The regulation does state you can test more, of course, and if you do test more, you need to post the results within the 72 hours. So
So just to review some information for newer board members and members of the public, the state requires that the testing of all of our water outlets be conducted once every 3 years. That's correct, Ms. Linsky?
yes,
Right, and our district about 3 years ago decided to begin testing all water outlets twice per year, 6 times as frequently as the state requires. Typically, if that's our practice and that's a practice that's being directed by the board, that would go into the regulation of the policy so that the administration can carry out the directive of the board in that way. But I understand what you're saying, Ms. Linsky, about not mandating. If we mandate that we're going to test twice per year, but we have water outlets that are closed because of COVID, you have water sitting in pipes, you're going to get inaccurate readings. Or that's the train of thought there.
And
So-
the cost of testing is $25,000 a year.
So personally, I'd be comfortable with approving the policy without stipulating the number of times per year. And when we resume usage of the water outlets, of the water fountains, that we, at that point, revisit the topic and put in place the directive of the board to test twice per year in the regulation. That's my position.
I'm fine with that. That sounds reasonable.
Anybody else want to
Okay
weigh?
with that?
The whole reason we moved to testing that often was due to high lead levels, to the point that once a reading came back, and I actually reached out to the old BA because I had to ask him if that was a typo, because I could not believe the number. And I said to him, should there be a decimal in there or something? Or did you add an extra zero? Like, where's our digit going? And he said to me, no, that was the real number. So also, we have spent a great deal of time and money in this district on, Kelly can speak much more eloquently to it than I can, with our lead testing and making remediation for the lead water that we've had. Also, from a fact-based situation, lead affects children very poorly, very poorly. You can have a child who has a lead in their system and they can start becoming developmentally delayed. There's a great deal of issues with that. Also, women who are pregnant, that's another issue. And also for anyone who's an adult should not be having lead in their water. Don't forget, I understand students maybe not are drinking out of water fountains at the moment, but one of the interesting things that we observed and the report showed in the last times was the water coming out of the kitchens that was being used to cook the food for the cafeteria that the students ate. So we had to go and remediate things like that. So that was one of the biggest issues, is food being prepared in water that had high levels of lead. We have our VTEA Association, VTAA Association, all of the professionals dealing with the water in our district. They consume it if they buy a lunch or anything. Our students were consuming the food for lunch. Also, we have students who rely on the food because they may be getting a free or reduced lunch, and that might be, the best warm meal they have for the day. So that's where all these concerns stem from. And that's why we decided to be proactive as a board and move forward with testing twice a year. We have all of these savings that have been pointed out. So it concerns me a bit to know that the price is now a concern. I understand with the issues of COVID, understandably, water fountains and whatnot are crossed off. That's natural because you can't drink out of them. But I don't want to put this to the side to then have to re-examine it in the future. I think it should be twice, and then with a note stating due to lack of water running.
Can I state, Mrs. Coughlin, I agree with you 100%. The issue is right now, we're not preparing food in the cafeteria, so no one is being unduly exposed to lead. It is, like prepackaged or sandwich. Ever since COVID hit, they have not been using the water.
Right, but my concern is because there's been a massive lack of follow-up from this board, which has been an issue ongoing for years. So if we change this policy now to reflect that, it was only because I pointed this out, the issue, that's why it came back and we're looking at this right now, but I don't think it should be changed. And I think that any policies or regulations that this board took out on a one-by-one basis and amended to meet our school district's needs, and to board members, that's one of our greatest responsibilities. As Mr. Higgins said, who was a board member for numerous years, he sat next to me for many years, our main responsibilities are the superintendent, finance, and policy. So my concern is if this policy is amended now to go back, then what happens down the road when there's a lack of follow-up?
So I want to just respond to that because I agree with much of what you're saying, Ms. Coughlin. In fact, I think that you're pointing out some valid points and maybe swaying my position on it. However, I think that there's a real issue with sitting here at the table and tearing down fellow board members and saying there's a real lack of follow-up with this board when we have been very diligent about the lead issue in our buildings. We have made sure that it has been a priority for years. We have invested money into the issue. So to just throw in a comment like that,
Mr. Nunziata, I
I'm
was
responding
talking
still,
about
Ms. Coughlin. I didn't
general
interrupt
terms.
you.
I wasn't
I
even
did not-
talking about
I
the
did not-
lead. Okay,
But I just think
continue.
that's an offensive comment to your fellow board members when I was agreeing with everything else you were saying.
I'm saying the lack of follow-up was not with the lead. I was
But
saying
it's just
general.
that, but there's no need to tear down your fellow board members like that.
I'm not, I said past precedent.
Okay.
So therefore.
Because
if you
I
wanna
think that
change it,
the
then
lead
change
issue
it.
has been a priority for all of us. We all agree with you that safety is important and we don't want our students drinking unsafe water.
Right.
Right.
And good, I'm glad. So then we won't.
So then
change
let's
it.
talk about it. So then is there verbiage that we can put into the policy, into the regulation that will allow us to achieve the goal of testing the water that the students will be drinking without getting faulty readings? The portion of the policy that refers to usage testing at the board's discretion is item 3B. That's on page 4 of the regulation. It refers to the board's ability to test more frequently than the 3-year cycle. So, would the board entertain wording such as water outlets shall be tested twice per year unless the outlet is not in use?
Well, the only thing about that is sometimes they were not in use, understandably, because they could not be fixed,
Okay.
so from that regard. And then what we used to do, we tested specifically over the winter break and then in the summer. So it was like 2 completely different times of the year.
Right.
So if we were testing over the summer, wouldn't that be the same thing as the stagnant water in the pipes now? During the summer, those kids are here. They're not making lunches. We would have the same results that we would have if we took a test right now.
Now, I don't recall that there was, now this was all like, we could delve into this further. I could get all the past research, but it was a great deal. And to clarify, I wasn't saying a lack of follow-up on the lead. We've been very proactive on the lead for the past few years.
Thank you for
what I'm saying.
clarifying.
Yeah, I'm trying to clarify. No, I'm just saying a lack of follow-up in general was my concern. So we went well into depth with this. No pun intended with the well depth. So from that regard, I don't recall the specifics, but if you want, I can go back. And I can also contact Mr. Chili, who was a board member, and he was one of the most proactive people that took on this lead testing, and I can reach out to him and find out.
Could the Buildings and Grounds Committee work on some verbiage and
Even
come back
better.
next month?
That goes to Kelly.
Flips to me.
Does
Okay,
that work?
perfect.
That would be wonderful.
Okay, great. And thank you for clarifying, Ms. Coughlin. I just wanted to make sure that we weren't insinuating that there was no follow-up on the lead
No,
issue.
anything. We're the complete opposite. We were very proactive on the lead, very proactive. It was very nice to see. We all very well together. And we did, I think, in my opinion, it was one of the Board of Education's greatest successes, handling the lead issues.
All right, so the Buildings and Grounds Committee will work on verbiage for that, and we'll have the first reading hopefully in May.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, item 2, recommendations of the business administrator.
Okay. Letter A is approve the bills list. the hand checks, transfers, and the purchase orders for March.
Can we have a motion for recommendation 2A?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Sweeney, second.
Second, Coglin.
Second by Ms. Coughlin. Questions or comments? Seeing none, can we please have a roll call vote?
Yes.
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 Yes, and abstain from checks as noted.
Letter B, recommended that the board accept the report of the secretary for the current operating fund, which is what Mr. Sweeney was discussing. We went over in the finance committee, and the treasurer's report, and that they are in agreement with each other.
Motion for recommendation 2B.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Sweeney, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. O'Donnell. Questions or comments? Seeing none, can we please have a roll call vote?
Yes.
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 Thank you.
Letter C are sent to districts.
Can we have a motion for recommendation 2C?
So moved.
Second, Coglin.
Second by Ms. Motion by Mr. Sweeney, second by Mr. Coughlin. Questions or comments? Seeing none, can we please have a roll call vote?
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Letter D, it is recommended that the board approve the attached resolution regarding the 2021-2022 school budget.
I got it. I figured that.
Can we have a motion for recommendation 2D?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Sweeney, second.
Second.
Second by Ms. Lutner. Earlier I asked after our conversation, I asked Ms. Davino if she could get us copies of attachment F7. I think there were some at our seats, but I have a lot of papers in front of me and I couldn't locate mine. I wanted to make sure that everyone was clear on what the motion was and that we were all clear on what was being voted on. So, any other questions or comments?
Yes.
Yes, Mr. O'Donnell.
Of course. This is the vote on the whole budget, right? Am I correct?
Yes, that's correct. That's
Mr.
the,
O'Donnell.
Was that?
Oh.
I'm actually going to get up and underneath the whiteboard because I really want everybody to take a look at what I'm going to put up there. Okay, if I may.
sure, but please use a microphone.
Here.
I just want to make sure we're making the right decision here, and I really want somebody to tell me I'm wrong. And that would probably change my vote if you did. So if you have any other things to discuss about the budget, just do it while I'm writing this up here if you could, and then I'll come back to this.
Okay. If anybody has any comments.
I just need a minute. Thank you. All right, I'll give up. Matt, how do I erase? This? Just touch the eraser? It's not working. Oh, there we go. Okay, thank you.
Watch your sleeve.
Yeah, my sleeve. hit it. Technology at its best. Oh, I do? Okay. Thank you.
Glad to go.
Okay, so if nobody else can talk about anything, I guess it's all me. So if we have a $600,000 savings on health insurance, okay? I think we need to take that into consideration. If we do, the numbers get really crazy. So let me show you. Sorry about my writing, it's horrible. this yet. Hate this thing out. There it is. I got it. Thank you. Okay, so these are the numbers we already have on there. Are we all in agreement with this? Okay, that are on that line. So let's go from here, which is the budgeted amount from the previous year, to what I would consider actual by removing the $600,000 from that, which should be in the fund balance, correct? Everybody's looking at me like I got 3 hits.
Welcome to teaching, Martin.
You know, I never was a teacher, so I wouldn't know, but I have a lot of respect for him because
We get to grade you on penmanship?
no, not at all. I will fail miserably. Okay, so here's what we have if you look at the actual. Okay, if you look at the actual, our number under 2.5% is actually a 17% increase. If you look at it under 1.3, I just erased everything, but it's a 12% increase. Okay, so if you take the actual dollars and the differential between this and this at 10%, you get 944,621. You take the differential between what was here, okay, and that at 5%, that's, I'm sorry, take that back. I apologize. One day. Hold it. Okay. If you take the differential between that and what is here at 12%, this is what you get. So when you don't have the correct data, the numbers are enormously different. Okay, because the reality of it is, if we vote on 1.35%, that's the dollar value increase, which is more than the 10% you guys want to vote on with the wrong data. Question? The reality of it is with the incorrect data, we're voting on the wrong thing. And I would like somebody to tell me I'm wrong, only because if I am, that would change my vote, but I don't think I am.
Can I just ask a question? Because I'm
Sure.
looking at this, and Martin, you're not gonna know the answer probably to this. This is just a general question to
Can you bring the
administration.
microphone? We can't hear.
Oh, sorry. Just a general question to administration, right? Because I think maybe what we're missing, and I may be wrong, is we're looking at a year of 2020 to 2021 with the medical line being 9,000, et cetera. The state insurance started, if I'm remembering correctly, March of 2021. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so this number here, it's, I think, a little hard to wrap our heads around when we move into the following year, because we are seeing some savings in that 2020, 2021 year, because the new insurance rates start in January, but our budget goes according to the school year.
Right.
So we're already seeing some of those savings in 2020, 2021. So I don't think that the comparison of the 600,000 is fully correct.
But these
I
are
don't
all,
know,
these are all
100%.
yearly numbers.
But we're dealing with overlapping years.
Understood, but it's still, they're still all yearly numbers. So, but I have one more question. Chuck, how many retirees do we have this year that we're not replacing?
Based on the numbers I have right now, you have 18 retirees. That's not all teachers. There's some secretaries as well. You're going to replace everybody but about 6, which is my warning to pretty much everyone. If we are talking about removing $750,000 from the budget, it is not 21, 22 that will be your concern. It is 22, 23 that will be your concern. And for the past 5 years in this position, once that cut came from the state, the $10 million, I've been worried, and I've said publicly about 22, 23 and 23, 24. Now, no matter what we do, I just want everyone to know that we have cut our budget and our faculty, whether it's our secretaries or our teachers or anybody else in our unions and our administration, to the point where those kind of cuts won't happen again.
So,
If the retire not replace can only work for so long. And then it's about programs and it's about things that affect students. Now, Martin, I'm not arguing with you about these numbers. I'm just talking from a personnel and student point of view.
sure.
That if you're removing $722,000, then I would make the recommendation not to appoint those 4 employees, and we start, which is the 265,000, and we start to talk about removing things.
But Chuck, you're not removing $722,000. You
Okay.
started with the wrong number. You
Right.
still have more at the end of the day than you had when you were budgeting at 2.45% at 10%.
Right.
Now, my next question is, what's the average healthcare per employee?
It depends. There's 3 or 4 different levels. There's the family plan and there's the individual plan.
What's the
and then
lowest
there's 2
one?
adults. The
What's-
individual,
What's the lowest one?
the individual plan.
And how much is that per person?
Uh,
Our cost?
I'm not sure of the
12,
What?
12,000.
12.
12,000. All right, so you have another, what? $72,000 to add on to that. Because you're saving that because you have 6 people leaving and you're not paying their health insurance. So now that
Correct.
number over there becomes 1.125 million.
Martin,
What's that?
600,000 is a projection, so that's also not a deficit.
No, it's not.
No, that's a real number. That's a real number.
Yeah, that's real.
I-
Those are actual savings from when we changed the
I
insurance.
understand it, but the thing is overlapped, so we're not gonna get all that savings, with the way the year works.
No, it's not
No.
It's
saving.
January, they can boost up, they can raise it by X amount.
Okay.
That we
but-
receive a couple months of savings right now, and then the next school budget will come in.
What I'm trying to say is even if they raise it another 2-3%, you're still. covered.
And what if we need to add more teachers?
You add more teachers, you add more teachers. I mean, you
Yeah,
know,
but there's
that's
a
not-
cost to that.
No, that's not how, that
There's a
doesn't
cost to
happen.
it. A new teacher, just off the
but
top
you
of my
can't
head.
budget health insurance for adding a new teacher.
Well,
You have to budget health insurance for what health insurance is.
and you
Right.
can't,
When I
But
add a new
new-
teacher,
every
you gotta
new
budget
teacher-
that in a different
Every
line
new
item.
I think what
teacher
mi-
gets
What,
health insurance.
what he's
I'm
in,
assuming.
yeah, but I think what the train of thought there that's being insinuated is that when you have unexpected expenses arise in your budget, you hope that you have breakage elsewhere that can absorb the
Yes.
unexpected
And we're
budget
back to
expense.
And I completely understand that, but you don't budget that into the healthcare line.
I understand what you're
That's
saying.
being fiscally irresponsible in
I-
my eyes. If you're
we're-
gonna budget for additional teachers, if, you know, the administration feels that they're forecasting an increase in students where they're gonna need teachers, that should be in this budget, but not on that line item.
but those teachers need health insurance.
Fine, but at $12,000 a piece, you're way over the mark anyway, so you can absorb that. What I'm trying to say is, we're way over on this.
Can
Way
I just,
over.
can I just say that I really feel that we need to table this vote? Because
We
if
can't,
we don't, if
can't.
we don't have the accurate numbers,
We
how are
can't
we
table the
supposed to
vote.
vote?
we have to have the budget vote.
Well,
What's the
then
deadline? I think it's,
I can't imagine you would vote yes to this
You
budget.
know, there are a lot of
without
numbers
accurate-
I
we
would-
don't know, though. I mean, there's uncertainty in other areas and.
But this is highly, like, I mean, oh my gosh.
But it's the difference
If I
between
may.
taking a guess and an
Right.
educated
I
guess.
think to Ray's point earlier, though, what he was saying about the fact that you have a lot of uncertainty and you need to build in some flexibility, and that, we're fixating on this number, but the bigger issue is, as Dr. McKay said, down the line, we're gonna have to figure out where to get these cuts from, and it's, there isn't anywhere left to go. So, I don't know. I mean, Ray put it very well earlier.
But I guess I'm saying that it's not the fact that you're not budgeting for those dollars. The number's wrong. Okay, you're still getting the same dollars. Matter of fact, you're getting more dollars. You're getting $100,000 more, plus the $12,000 per teacher. You're still getting more money. So it's not like you're changing the budget and cutting anything. You're just correcting it and making it right. You're still getting an additional $1,061,000 for health insurance. And before you were only getting $944. It makes no sense.
I just have to say, if you look forward in the years and you see what the auditor presented and that you need to generate excess surplus, I think everybody here, you weren't, I wasn't, Ray, Charlie, who else? I don't know who else wasn't here, but you, in order to make the next year's work, you have to generate surplus. And if you look at the next years, you're going to see 0.7%, what I presented earlier, or less than 0.5%. How do you make that? How do you do that with a pay increase and increase overall in all your items?
I guess you're not understanding my point, because the people who voted for the 2.45 voted for it and voted for that value of health insurance. And what I'm trying to say is that at 1.35, it's more because the numbers are wrong.
I voted for that 245 because I feel like we need the money in our budget. I
At
really
2.45,
kind
you're
of
gonna
had
get a
an
lot
issue
more.
with the fact that we were fixating on one line item. I think it's a bigger picture issue than that. But this is where, we ended with this meeting. But I think several people who who felt that way are doing so for long-term planning issues more than we are for.
Everybody tells me we only have control over 17% of our budget, okay? So this is a much bigger picture than people are saying one line item. Because it's one line item and there's a lot of money. There's a lot of money there. This isn't $100 for some pieces of paper and pencils. There's a lot of money here. So I think we at least have to consider coming down from the 2.45. I mean,
We already
for
did, didn't
simplicity's
we?
sake,
Didn't we? Already, it came down from 3.03.
could you imagine now saying that would have been low? That would have been way off the mark. That's all I'm trying to
So
say.
you're saying that the health line budget is over budget.
Way over budget.
I understand what you're saying. And you
Yeah,
can't-
I
you
mean, I
can't-
would even agree to 1.9 if you guys felt comfortable and wanted a little bit more than the 1.35. And I understand that. I don't fully agree with it, but if it brought this board to a consensus, I would agree with that. But I just wanted to bring these numbers up because they just didn't seem right to me. And I think we owe it to people who put us here to at least take a look at that and consider it. Okay, I'm
Well,
done.
if the numbers are so inaccurate, though, how do you possibly vote on a budget?
The budgeted numbers aren't, it's the numbers in the analysis
Right.
were faulty. I mean,
This
the
number
budget
here
numbers
is
are
a
the
little bit
budgeted
more
numbers.
accurate than the other one.
Yeah. The budgeted numbers, we know what's being proposed to be budgeted. It's just a matter of the analysis of, prior year.
So then what else are we overestimating?
And what are we underestimating?
I don't
Well,
know. We had a lot of money.
The only reason, Teresa, that we overestimated this is we didn't take into consideration our actual.
No, I understand, but that leads me to believe, because like I said last week, this comes down to, we're not the administrators. So where else is there money that's being put in an overestimating manner that should be elsewhere and then, moved eventually or transferred? We're not a private corporation. These are tax dollars. So I
Right.
agree with
And
you.
this is all going to go into fund balance. Anything that is budgeted over is going to go to fund balance.
Right. I mean, in any
Hopefully
school
that
year,
evens out in the future.
yes. In any school year budget, you're going to have budgetary line items that could be higher than what you estimate and lower than what you estimate.
Exactly.
And I think
During a year that we got millions
clear.
of dollars.
I'm sorry. I was going to say, I think we were clear last week when Ms. Linsky presented that fund balance will be used to fund future years' expenses. We still have a significant
need.
financial cliff that we are looking at in the next several years in reduced state aid. In fact, hold on, the fund balance can only be used in certain ways. It can't be used for other matters. Those monies are earmarked under GAAP accounting and other regulations that the school business administrator has to follow. That excess surplus can't be used for certain things. This is the only opportunity that we have to try to fund our schools for the next several years. Or we can go back to where we have been for the last couple of years, which is retire, not replace, continue to reduce, which will have a direct impact on class size and programs for our children. And the board can do whatever they choose to do, because this is up to you. It's not up to me. I don't get a vote. I get to speak. I don't get to vote. I just worry that in a couple of years, when I'm still here saying, I'm sorry, parents, we don't have, because of the decisions we made and didn't take a look at long-term planning this is a one-time opportunity for us. I know it's difficult. I'm sorry. I know it's difficult. We've not been in this situation. The culture of our district for the last 3 years has been $10 million, $10 million. There were times that Dr. McKay and I presented to the public, to the faculties, and people said to us, oh my God, we're so sick and tired of hearing about the $10 million. Well, the reality is that part of the savings that we're seeing is due to the retire, not replace. It is COVID savings. It is also the savings in personnel. We have significantly reduced the number of positions. That's real dollars for salaries and benefits. That's one of the reasons we are looking at some of the excess that we have. How that translates is, how do we make that one-time opportunity, luxury, whatever you want to call it, how do we utilize that to fund the future needs of our children? And I'm not sure that, I know that we don't have a consensus here, but we do need to come to consensus, because the law says that we need to vote on this budget tonight, and that's a problem. So that's where my thoughts are.
I just think, Aaron, that it is, and I'm going to use the term, unethical to pad an account like this, knowing it's just going to go in the fund balance.
When you budget, it's a projection, and it's based on trends. It's based on, year look backs. It's based on many, many different things. It's a budget. Just when you budget your own home budget, you're budgeting certain line items, and it might be based on historical trends. It might be based on how much money you spent on gas or electric or whatever that line item happens to be. It's a projection. That's what a budget is, a projection.
I understand that, but this takes all your projections right into play. You just started with the wrong number, that's all. All your projections are right in there.
I just want to make sure everybody understands too, all of the spreadsheets on the future projections that I keep going back to, that you need to generate surplus in your 23-24 budget, which would come from next year's budget. Without that 850,000, you're without programs.
We're not going to have it.
You're not budgeting any different than your plan. The dollar value is just different because the wrong number was used to start.
You're not, I don't know.
I
don't think you're getting it.
I don't get it.
You're getting it.
You guys agreed to $944,000 as your projection. Okay, why wouldn't $1,061,000 work? I'll take that all day long.
I just have to jump in here for a second.
You get it.
I'm a little baffled that we're still sitting here discussing one line. I emailed Teresa yesterday and I said, oh my gosh, I really am not a numbers person. I don't understand this. I met with her and with Karen and with Chuck for an hour today so that I can understand what we're doing here. So I don't know why we keep just saying the same things over and over again. I'm upset because twice now I've heard that there is a belief that our administration, who we hired, is padding the budget. And I think that's completely wrong. I have a certain level of trust in our administration. Yes, we have a job to do, but we're sitting here as a board arguing still about this. And I'm just baffled and upset.
First of all, I never accused anybody of padding the budget. I said
Martin.
it's unethical to pad the budget. I never accused
But
anybody.
that's what you were
We
insinuating.
started with the wrong number. That's nobody's fault. Okay? All I'm trying to do is correct it. I did not accuse anybody of anything.
But that's how it came out.
Well,
Marty.
I
You
apologize to the administration for that. I did not mean it like that.
No, I appreciate that. I mean, the last point I would make is that we have been discussing the budget since at least February. And prior to that, when we had an interim business administrator, perhaps we weren't doing deep dives in December and January, but we started this discussion in December of 2020. We've had many of these discussions, both publicly as well as at finance committee meetings. Ms. Linsky, prior to her, Ms. Reese, Ms. Linsky, myself, Dr. McKay have been available to talk about all of these things. Every time there's been a request, we've provided it. Now, if this request had come up yesterday, you know, hey, Karen, I'm not really sure. I mean, you would even called and said, can we get the state aid figures? It's there because you called and asked for it, right? So our responsibility is to respond. But here, saying, can we get this? Can we get this? Can we get this? An enormous amount of preparation goes into drawing accounts and line items to have this prepared. We want to give you accurate information. And if we're not doing so, I apologize. However, the responsibility, onus, right, for all of us to come to consensus is that we are dealing with facts. And if there are errors, I understand that that makes it very confusing or challenging for board members to make a decision. However, just like it's my responsibility to prepare agendas, it's everybody's responsibility to ask the questions before we get to the table when we have to vote on things. It makes it very difficult. I can't pull these numbers out of my hat, right? I don't know what the accurate numbers are. Ms. Smith stated what they were. She could be very accurate on what those are. I don't know.
So
And I
just-
understand your frustration.
I want to
but-
speak to the accuracy comment, just to make sure that we're all talking about the same thing. I believe, Ms. Linsky, that your numbers in the 2020, 2021 column are correct numbers of what's budgeted in those columns. They aren't the numbers of what the expense would be after the change to state health benefits. So the analysis is slightly flawed, but they're not just like made up numbers. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Oh, I understand. what
Yeah,
you're saying.
okay, I just want to make sure that we're not
I think
insinuating that.
Slightly
yes.
is a little bit bad of an adjective, to be honest with you, to use there. It's not slightly flawed, it's flawed by a lot of money.
Martin, the whole thing is, it's not one line item, because the whole overall budget comes down. Right?
Can you just
Right.
speak to the
It's
mic?
not one line item. It's actually, even though we're looking at one line item, the whole budget would be coming down because we based those numbers off of a bad number. It happened, whatever, it came in. But I see where Martin's coming at. This, at the end of the day, if you adjusted everything, but at $600,000, you could still get the same budget you want. It's just because we have that, yes, one line item is wrong, but it's overall, it's gonna come out to you're still making, you're making the money you need to make. I still don't agree. I mean, Martin bring up the suggestion, maybe we can vote again on a different figure, but I still don't agree 135 is where we need to be. That's still low, I feel, for us, for the increase. But it's kind of hard, what Martin pointed out, to say that you need this, 2.45.
Okay, so it's been brought up twice now about sort of circling back to the 1.9% option on the levy increase, which has been floated as a compromise position. We do have a motion on the table for F7, which is a 2.45% increase. So there will have to be a vote on that motion.
Right, based on the previous discussion and straw poll of the 9-member board. So we have another issue, right? Because now we have to, vote on this particular motion that's on the table. And when it does not pass, then we have to do this again, right?
Then you would,
Right.
in theory, introduce another resolution.
Which resolution would you all like me to introduce? I'm very, very frustrated with this process. What motion would the board like the
So
superintendent to
there's a
introduce?
motion on the table at the moment. So that motion would have to fail first.
Yeah, why don't we vote on it?
Why don't we vote on that motion? Why don't we start
Voting
there?
on 2.5.
We're voting on the 2.45, item F, attachment F7. Any other questions or comments before a roll call vote? Can we have a roll call vote?
Yes.
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 No.
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 Yes. No.
No.
Okay, previously there was a recommendation on the agenda, which was previously noted before it was pulled as recommendation E, which was attachment F8, which included a 1.9% increase on the levy, which was a reduction of $485,884 from the previously advertised budget. Does the administration want to consider putting forward that recommendation?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes. Let's reintroduce the recommendation, item E, that the board approve the attached resolution regarding the 2021-22 school budget, attachment F8, which, if I'm not mistaken, is a 1.90% increase.
Well, if we're, can I ask something?
so can we have a motion on the recommendation?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. O'Donnell, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Smaglia. Questions or comments?
So if we're revisiting the 1.9, why can't we revisit the 1.35? Because I would rather see the 1.35.
Because that's a recommendation that was put forward next, and it's a motion on the table.
I think, Kelly, because the people who want 2.45 will never vote for 1.35, and the people who want 1.35 will never vote for 2.45. So the only way we're going to get this budget passed is by a compromise. That's why the 1.9 makes sense.
But I don't feel comfortable with the 1.9.
Then you can vote no if you're not comfortable with that.
I mean, we just went over what the 1.35 looks like.
Understand?
So how could we vote yes for 1.9?
Compromise.
Because the 1.35 is not on the table right now. It was not recommended.
Well, can I
Correct. And you
motion
can
for
always
the
vote no.
1.35?
The 1.35 is very
Administration has to
obvious,
make
too
a
low for many of the people on the board. I understand. I respect their opinion. Okay, just like the 2.45 is way too high for some of us people. So let's try and compromise in the middle. See what happens. Roll the dice.
The vote's on the table.
Any
So
other
can we-
questions or comments on attachment F8 or recommendation E?
Where is F8? So wait a minute, we are voting on the budget or the 1.9? I'm trying to.
We are voting on resolution, on the recommendation for the resolution regarding the 21-22 school year budget, which is attachment F8.
And I'm trying to find that with, my tree here. On the table.
What do you want the F8, Teresa?
Can you copy of it?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, can we please have a roll call vote?
Well, I don't agree that we should go down that low. I will vote for it as a compromise.
Yes.
I agree that striking a compromise is important, and there's disagreement on particular line item or one particular line item, but I think that overall, we're talking about a few percentage points, and I will vote yes.
Yes.
No.
Our administration has already come down from 3.03. No.
No.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Recommendation G. Yeah. Ms. Linsky.
Ms. Linsky, I think that's under you, item G, the Altiva of Warwick on page 13.
It is recommended the board approve Altiva of Warwick for the category 1 E-rate, C1 fiber, and C2 NN in the amount of $17,400 for the 21-22 school year. They were the only bidder.
We have a motion for recommendation G. Motion by Mr. Semaglia, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. O'Donnell. Questions or comments? Seeing none, can we please have a roll call vote? Yes.
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 Letter H, it is recommended that the board approve High Point Solutions for the category 2 network refresh project in the amount of $103,493 for the 21-22 school year.
We have a motion for recommendation H.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Lutner, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Zimmerman. Questions or comments?
Yes. Why aren't we awarding this to the lowest bidder?
Why is the lowest bidder so low?
Because they didn't bid correctly. They didn't bid on what the bid actually was, so they weren't really, they submitted a bid, but it didn't meet the specs. So we
then
have
they
to
really
list
don't
it here.
qualify then.
Right.
Yes,
They should be on here, really.
Either that or right default next to
Yeah.
them or something, just so we know.
okay. And then also, just so everyone knows, we do receive E-rate money in the amount of 44% of that. The total cost, we receive E-rate money. Federal
What about
money,
What about the other bidders on there?
same,
They bid incorrectly?
yeah.
All of
Matt, you wanna?
Yeah, E-rate's my thing, and I do a lot of bidding for it. So E-rate was renewed last year under President Trump, and so our school district received another, well, it's earmarked for us, $550,000 over the next 5 years. And category 2 is specific to infrastructure that delivers internet to children. So that's switches, wireless access points, servers that again help distribute internet. So this particular quote, last summer we did a similar project that replaced more than half of our infrastructure of switches. So this is to finish that project. So it's more switches, specifically at Lounsbury, Rolling Hills, and Glen Meadow. I'm pretty sure I have that right. So the quotes are all over. So part of the E-rate process is we say here's what we prefer. This is the devices we want. They don't have to bid that. But then on E-rate, we put together a rubric to award the winner. And the number one item on the rubric must be cost. But then the number two item, so we had four criteria: cost, did they bid the correct product? Did they bid the labor? And in one or two of the cases, they didn't even bid the labor. So it just, again, was not a complete thing. And then the fourth one was, have we previously used the vendor? And so only two of the vendors, we wanted Cisco devices. The rest of our network is Cisco. We're familiar with Cisco. We can maintain Cisco ourselves. And so only two of the vendors even bid Cisco. Again, two didn't even bid the labor. And then one bid, I'd never even heard of the devices, and I've been doing this 20 years. So. Does that help? And correct. So I think 44% is what we get back from E-rate. So for every dollar we spend, we get 43 cents back from the federal government.
So the bid has to be Cisco or equivalent, no matter what.
So in the bid, it says Cisco or equivalent, but then we get to choose in that rubric how important is Cisco, and it's pretty important.
That makes sense.
Right. Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
Have we used Higher Point?
What's that?
Have we used Higher Point before?
We have used High Point in the past. They had won last year's bid as well, correct?
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Thanks.
Any other questions or comments?
I do. In the past, I thought that we were opening bids at the table. Wasn't that the precedent that we have been doing?
That may be a practice that Ms. Linsky was not aware of.
Oh, okay, sorry. We used
Perhaps.
to open bids at the table so everyone could see them as they were being
Yeah.
opened, and then that way we would all know. And it was a very public display, so that way it was on video, it was recorded. So
It's not,
maybe,
yeah, it was something that we did under Steve, so
right.
we
maybe
should
could
have made
continue
that
It's
aware.
okay, it's not her fault, she's new. But yeah, maybe we can move back to that process. And then thank you for the explanation, Matt. But moving back to the process of opening bids at the table during videos. I'm sorry, meetings that are video.
I'm sorry, how does that work? I've never,
So the sealed bids would be opened for the first time on camera at a board meeting to ensure full transparency for the community.
So we use a consultant to do our e-rate for us. All the bids are sent to them.
Okay. So in a circumstance like that, then we wouldn't be able to, right? I mean, there's always going to be exceptions to the rule.
so the bids are at 7:00 at the board meeting? So
Yeah.
will the contractors, whoever come here and,
Typically, no one ever came. They would send the bid in, and I believe we had like bids for lighting or something, some sort of electrical. Last year, there was landscaping services, and the bid deadline, I think, was set for the board meeting, and then that was the time that it was just in order to be fully transparent for the community, that the bid process was.
So if we
where
could
was
just
the
do that.
transparency issue? Like, I don't,
No, it was a practice that was started a few years back.
But it's meant to be public because
It's meant to perhaps a year or two. Okay. Any other questions or comments on this? Seeing none, can we please have a roll call vote?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes. Yes.
Yes,
yes,
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. Recommendation I.
letter I is the policies that we reviewed the last meeting. They're up for second reading.
We have a motion for recommendation I. We have a motion for recommendation I.
to move.
Motion by Ms. Pellet, second.
second?
Second by Mr. O'Donnell. Questions or comments? After the second readings of policy and the regulation, they'll go into effect. Seeing no questions or comments, can we please have a roll call vote?
yes,
Yes. Yes.
Yes,
Yes,
Yes.
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 Thank you.
Letter J, it is recommended the board approve the following aid salary to be partially paid by IDEA preschool grant for the 2021 school year.
Can we have a motion for recommendation K?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Sweeney, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Zimmerman. Questions or comments? Seeing none, can we please have a roll call vote?
Yes. Yes.
yes,
yes,
Yes.
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 yes,
Letter K, it is recommended the board approve transportation to include the joint resolution for participation in the transportation services with the Sussex County Regional Cooperative for 21-22 school year.
Can we have a motion for recommendation K?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Sweeney, second.
Second.
Second by Ms. Luther. Questions or comments? Seeing none, can we please have a roll call vote?
Oh, I'm sorry, yes.
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 Thank you.
Letter L, it is recommended that the board approve transportation to include the joint resolution for participation in special education transportation services with the Sussex County Regional Cooperative for the 21-22 school year.
Can we have a motion for recommendation L?
So moved, Cogman.
Motion by Ms. Coughlin. Can we please get second by Mr. Sweeney? Questions or comments? Seeing none, can we please have a roll call vote?
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Letter M, it is recommended that the board approve transportation to include the joint resolution for athletic and field trip transportation services with the Sussex County Regional Cooperative for the 21-22 school year.
Can we have a motion for recommendation M?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. O'Donnell, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Sweeney. Questions or comments? Seeing none, can we please have a roll call vote?
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Letter N, it is recommended that the board approve accent on communication for specialized speech therapy effective 4/3/21 at a rate of 120 per session.
Can we have a motion for recommendation N?
So moved, Cogman.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Coughlin, second by Mr. Sweeney. Questions or comments? Seeing none, can we please have a roll call vote?
Yes.
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 Abstain?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Letter O is a recommendation to move to Delta Dental for the next school, beginning 7/1/21.
Can we have a motion for recommendation O?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Sweeney, second. Second. Second by Mr. O'Donnell. Questions or comments? Seeing none, can we please have a roll call vote?
Yes.
Abstain.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Can we have a oh, I'm sorry, I skipped your step.
Letter P, it is recommended the board approve the submission of the entitlement grant for the Perkins Secondary Consolidated Formula Grant to the state for review and approval for the 21-22 school year.
Can we have a motion for recommendation P?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. O'Donnell, second by Mr. Sweeney. Questions or comments? Seeing none, can we please have a roll call vote? Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Item N is public participation for items on the agenda or any other business. We'll begin with members of the public who are attending here in person. You all have 5 minutes. Please come to the podium and state your name. I will keep time, and then we'll go to members of the public who are attending virtually via Zoom.
Hi, I'm Vicki Smith again, VTEA President. And I just wanted to take a moment, a personal privilege, to thank one of the board members The VTEA has access to grants through NJEA. It's for our Pride grants, where they provide us with grant money for school community functions. And some of those functions are, we're sponsoring a softball and a baseball team. We provided 15 meals to families in need over the Easter holiday. And to date, we've provided over $3,000 worth of food to the local food banks. And Mr. Sweeney was so lovely to agree to deliver the last delivery to our one food bank. And I'd like to thank him.
I don't think I have much choice.
I'm trying to
But
praise
thank
you, but I do want to thank you and thank for the support of the board and our activities that we bring to the schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other members of the public here in person. I think behind the podium we have somebody, but seeing nobody else coming up to the podium, I'll go to the Zoom to see if there's anybody who would like to raise their hand to be admitted into the meeting as panelists. Okay.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes, just give us one moment because we have to move the microphone. I won't start your time until we're set up.
Go ahead, Mark.
All right.
Okay, I was on the referendum committee, and I can tell there's quite a lot of things that need replacement. I don't want to go through the whole list because I only have 5 minutes. I want to correct one big misconception that I feel is a big misconception, that if we have to replace something that's, let's say, $100,000, and we go through the referendum committee, it only costs us $60,000 because the state pays 40%. That is wrong. The referendum is for us to get a bond, to pay for it. A bond is like a mortgage. You pay interest on it. That means if you get a $100,000 bond, you might be paying back $200,000, $300,000, depending on the interest rate and the maturity of the bond. So if it is, but like you know, for the mortgage, you pay about 3 times as much back than you borrowed. If you get a really good rate, we pay back about twice. So that $100,000 item, we pay back $200,000, of which the state will pay 40%, $80,000. It still costs us more than if we would have paid cash for it. Okay, unless we get a bond rate that is extremely low. Okay, so if that even should be discussed as an option between taking something out of the fund balance, saving some money up for something, paying cash for it, or putting it out for a referendum where it might or might not pass. There are things that went out for referendum, like we once had a referendum on a pool, I remember, okay, that did not pass. Okay, so, and then we don't have the backup power supply or the air filtration system or the roof flies off and we don't have to fix it and we can't borrow the money because it didn't go through the referendum if it didn't make it. So that's number one. Number two is you took not only $450,000 with the 1.9% that you just voted out of this year, you took it out of every subsequent year. Because, again, very simple thing, if I have $100,000 or $100 million, let's say, and I just picked this number because it's easy to calculate with 100, and I raise the tax rate this year by 2%, next year I have $102 million as revenue. Another 2%, let's say roundly, is 104. If I only raise it this year by 1%, I have $101,000 next year. And the year after, if I raise it by 2%, I have $103,000 instead of 104. And the year after that, $105,000 instead of 106. So this money has been taken out in perpetuity in a situation where we are capped we have no more chance to go higher above the 2% because our cap is gone now. So if the inflation is higher than the 2%, if the cost is higher, if we have people moving into this town, young people, because this is an old town, old people die, young people move in. That's how it goes. Then the kids grow, move out of town, schools go down, then the people die, new young people move in. Okay? So if our enrollment goes up by 1,000 students, you guys gonna be looking for 30 million quickly. Because that's what it will cost. So I am very unhappy. There has been, in my opinion, either by not knowing or with malice, been doing a lot of pushing numbers to keeping the taxes down. Now, I'm not a friend of taxes. I do not want to pay, I'm upset I pay $5 for a cup of coffee at Dunkin' Donuts. Okay, but I want, as long as I get my money's worth, and the question should always be, are we getting our money's worth? Is somebody wasting money? Are our children getting educated? And now, I know I'm gonna run almost out of time, with the looming teacher shortage, to attract talent, we're gonna have two options, either increase class sizes, cut services, or spend more for human resources to attract people to this town.
Thank you, Mr. Perringer.
You're welcome.
Can I reply to Mr. Perringer?
We're about to go right into open board member forum.
Oh, all right.
So, Matt, anybody else from the public? Okay, seeing nobody else, we will close it to the public at this time, and it's letter O, open board member forum. Ms. Conklin, the floor is yours.
Oh, no, I was just going to say to him, thank you for explaining that so eloquently. I would have expanded on that, but yeah.
Could you, I can't hear you. Sorry.
Sorry.
No. Ooh. I said thank you to Mr. Perringer. I would have gone into that whole explanation. He explained it very eloquently, and for that, I appreciated it. So I was saying thank you to Mr. Perringer. I have other thoughts, but I'll let other members go.
I would just like to point out, I don't know exactly when the budget was put in the paper.
Can you just speak in the mic?
Sorry, but it's been there for a while. We've had 4 people comment on the budget. 2 have been here for a month saying the same stuff that we all heard, that didn't get much of a reaction until last week or at the last moment. One guy just criticized the way we did it, and the one new guy from the public told we should have taken 3.03. And he understands how this decision, now will affect us multiple years going forward when we're going to need money more and more. He just explained how the cap is low. It's 2%, 400,000 gone for multiple years, when we're going to really need the money as we go forward. And it's, the old saying, penny wise but dollar foolish. We might have appeased some people who really were in an uproar over it because nobody's here. And we're going to suffer more, and they're going to be here. So that's all we've really done here is kick the problem down the road. And it's been said before, not by me, but when you cut programs, that's when everybody shows up. And, I hope not, and I hope Mr. O'Donnell is correct, but, the amount of cuts we still have ahead of us, I find it hard to believe we could not have to cut something going down the road. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Zimmerman.
So I would just like to reiterate something I said before. This is not a budget cut, okay? It's a correction in a budget that was not yet approved, not a cut. So if we were not to correct it, we wouldn't be doing our job.
Thank you, Mr. O'Donnell.
But we voted to cut the budget, right?
Well,
we voted to utilize the correct numbers.
And reduce the budget from what we
from the
had.
previously
Because of
And we
incorrect data.
reduced
And it
the
also
budget.
has,
But
We cut
okay, let
the
me ask you a
budget.
question. If the correct,
Semantically, am I correct?
if the correct number was in there from the get-go, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. Because it would have been 10%, would have been 7% and 5%, and there would have been less money available than right now.
I still believe that we should have gone to the highest possible number that we could, no matter where the money is, because we need to have it a year in.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And what Ray said is
But
exactly right.
but we voted
And what
already.
Martin said is right. We made a big mistake.
I understand what you're saying, but the whole budget, I think we need to go forward for the next 4 or 5 years with the most that we can. It's too late now.
Right.
But that was my opinion.
I really, really hope we don't have 26 kindergartners in a class. Really. And I hope that, like you said, we're going to have 50 people here when we start cutting programs. I think we missed that point. I think we focused in so much on that health insurance line, but we were voting on an overall budget. Martin, I hope you prove me wrong. I swear to God, I'll eat my hat. We've now kicked this can down. We needed a starting spot to preserve our amazing programs that people move here for. Programs that when they come to an open house that Kelly started so smartly, great idea. People say to us, I didn't know we had that here. This is amazing. We're not going to have that here. I'm very disappointed.
I would hope that we budgeted for that stuff in other areas where it should have been.
Well, on another note, I would like to just talk about the Pride grant. The Pride grant that Mrs. Smith talked about.
Oh, I couldn't hear you.
Yeah, the Pride grant, just to put out there. The VTEA had this Pride grant, and what they're going to do on Saturday is they're going to have all these prizes for the younger kids, and it's all because of the VTA and their Pride grant. So they've not only done great work with getting Mr. Sweeney to do something for them, but they're giving all these prizes to the children, and we really appreciate all your hard work. So let's end it on a happy note. Carnival time, people. We're very excited, Kelly. Very excited.
So are the kids.
Yeah, it's gonna be really fun. So there we go. The budget is over.
Well,
We have a motion to adjourn.
No move.
Motion by Mr. Sweeney, second by Mr. O'Donnell. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned.